It's 4th of July here in America, so what better time to talk about freedom? That's right, the Freedom Cards from Chase. Today we're covering 3 cards from Chase: the Freedom Flex, the Freedom Unlimited, and the OG Freedom. Because even though you can't apply for that card, you still can use it to your advantage. But we'll get into that later. The sign-up bonus for both the Freedom Flex and the Unlimited is $200. You have to spend $500 in 3 months to get that, which is honestly no big deal. Now, when you receive the $200, it's in the form of points. So you're probably wondering, why didn't they just say it's 20,000 points instead of $200? And that's because if you don't have another travel card from Chase, like the Preferred or the Reserve, then all you can do with the points is cash them out at 1 cent per point, which is exactly $200. It may be a little confusing because you can use this card in the travel portal to purchase flights or hotels and receive points based on that. And we'll go over how many points that is in a minute, but it is not a travel card that you can redeem the points for travel so you get free travel. You can only cash it out at 1 cent per point for actual cash or gift cards. Now, you can't get a sign-up bonus for the OG Freedom because you can't sign up for it. So obviously there's no sign-up bonus. You can only downgrade to that card from other cards. And we'll talk about why you may want to do that later on in the video. The annual fee for all 3 of the Freedom cards is $0. And this is actually pretty crazy to me. For the earning potential that you have on these cards, to not have any annual fee for any of them is fantastic. It makes it so that there's really no reason not to have these cards, especially if you have other Chase cards for travel or for business. A lot of times the no annual fee cards either don't have a sign-up bonus or they don't have good earning potential, but the Freedom cards actually have both. So we'll start here with the OG Freedom. The only category it has is quarterly categories. That's it. So every quarter, you get a select list of categories that they provide. And here's how quarterly categories work. Just before every quarter starts, Chase provides a list of the categories that you will get an additional 4x on. And that applies to both the OG Freedom and the Freedom Flex. For the OG Freedom, that's all you get. It has quarterly categories, and that's it. 1x on everything else. And they are always the same exact categories for both cards. Now, Rich, you keep saying plus 4x when it's clearly saying 5% on the website. Well, the reason that is because it actually gives you 1x on everything, no matter what. And then it adds an additional 4x or 4% on these special selected categories for each quarter. The great news about that is if the credit card already has a modifier in that category, then you're getting plus 4 to that already there modifier. So let me break this down. So for example, this quarter, they have plus 4 on dining. Well, they already had 3x on dining. So plus 4 is 7. So it's actually not 5. You're getting 7 because there's already 3 plus 4. If they didn't already have a modifier in that particular category, for example, on Amazon.com, again, which is this quarter, then it would be 1x when you purchase stuff at Amazon. So now it's plus 4, now it's 5x or 5%. Now let's just get a sense of what the quarterly categories look like for each quarter. For this year, January to March, we had grocery stores, excluding Walmart and Target. That's pretty common to not include the superstores. And that doesn't include Costco either, mostly because this is a MasterCard and they don't take MasterCard. Fitness clubs and gym memberships, self-care, and spa services. April to June, that's the one we're in right now. It's about to be July. We're in the last day of the quarter as I'm recording this. You had Amazon.com, hotels and restaurants. And then now July to September, the quarter coming up, 2024, is gas stations, EV charging, select live entertainment. So it's probably gonna be like concerts and stuff. And then movie theaters, which that's not bad. I don't think that's a common one. It's probably just they're trying to get people's butts back into the seats for theaters these days after COVID. They don't really announce the quarters categories until like a couple weeks beforehand. Okay, so now that we have that clear, let's go over the spend categories for the Chase Freedom Flex. And now this is outside of any quarterly categories. The Freedom Flex gets 5x on hotels in the portal. You get 5x on airfare in the portal. You get 5x on car rentals in the portal. You get 3x on dining. You get 3x on drugstores. Everything else is 1x. All right, let's head over to richwithpoints.com and check out the credit card pages for the Freedom cards. The first one we have here is the Chase Freedom. And you can see it has the quarterly categories, 1x for all other purchases. If we enable the quarterly bonus, which adds the 4x, then you'll see the categories that you're getting for this quarter. You've got dining 5x, hotels 5x, hotels in the portal 5x, because it's portal's not required. Then you get specified stores, which is Amazon, and then 1x for everything else. For the Chase Freedom Flex, if you enable the quarterly bonus, then you'll see that you're getting now 9x for hotels in the portal, 7x for dining, and then of course you still get the airfare 5x in the portal, car rentals 5x in the portal, quarterly categories are 5x, hotels outside of the portal is 5x, Amazon this quarter is 5x, drugstores are 3x still, and everything else is 1x. Now the caveat to this is that it maxes out at $1,500 per quarter. So yeah, I mean, you could book a hotel stay and be way over $1,500 in that one purchase. If you use it for dining for 3 months, I mean, you're gonna hit $1,500 pretty quickly if you're just a normal go out every weekend type of person or family. Now, this is where the benefit of the OG Freedom kind of comes into play. If you have or have had a travel card that has a high annual fee in the past or currently, and you want to downgrade that to a different card so you don't lose the, I have this card for X amount of history in your credit, you can downgrade that to the Freedom OG and you will benefit from these quarterly categories, and you'll get now an additional $1,500. You'll get $1,500, for example, the Freedom Flex, and then another $1,500 for the OG Freedom. You can also do this and get 2 Freedom Flexes, but I know for a fact that you can downgrade to the OG Freedom while still having a Freedom Flex as well. The only downside to the OG versus the Freedom Flex is that if you do hit a quarter where they have the plus 4x on dining, you're not going to get that additional 3x that you would with the Freedom Flex on the OG. Another way to beat this is if you have a player 2, like a spouse, that has another Freedom Flex, then they can be spending on their Freedom Flex up to $1,500, and then you can be spending on your Freedom Flex for up to $1,500, giving you a total of $3,000. $3,000 is more in the range of what you'd probably be spending anyway without trying to overspend, but at the same time reap the benefits of the +4 in whatever category that you're on. Now with the Freedom Unlimited, the big positive of this card is that on the everything else category, you get 1.5x instead of just 1. It still has the 5x on airfare in the portal. It still has the 5x on hotels in the portal. It still has the 5x on car rentals in the portal. It also has 3x on dining and 3x on drugstores. But essentially, this can be your catch-all card in the Chase ecosystem, whereas if you don't have a card that covers some certain category, then make sure it gets thrown on the Freedom Unlimited, because 1.5x is obviously better than just 1x. And a common criticism of the Unlimited is why isn't it 2x? There's other cards with 2x. We've got the City Double Cash, 2x. We've got the Venture Rewards and the Venture X, 2x on everything else. Why doesn't Chase have a 2x on everything else? I mean, honestly, there's a very simple answer to that. I see this question all the time, and I don't really see it answered in other videos, and that's because the Chase points are just valued higher. And so if they were giving 2x, they'd be just giving away the farm. I mean, they don't have to. Those points are worth just as much, if not more, than the cards that are giving you 2x. And we'll cover the values of different banks' points in another video, but just understand that 1.5x, even though it looks like it's less than 2x on the other cards, it's either very comparable or it's actually a little more, just depending on how you use your points. All right, standard benefits of the OG Freedom. There aren't any. I mean, there probably are. They're just not documented because they don't advertise this card anymore. So it would be safe to say that they probably have the same benefits as the Freedom Flex, but currently none of them are advertised. All right, in the Freedom Flex, let me zoom in here. Like I mentioned, you have 5x on quarterly categories. You have cell phone protection up to $800, $1,000 per year. You have secondary auto rental collision damage waiver. Not as good as primary, obviously, but it's better than nothing. And then the trip cancellation insurance up to $1,500 per person and $6,000 per trip. And then it's pretty similar for the unlimited. You've got secondary auto rental collision damage waiver, as well as the trip cancellation insurance. The only thing you don't have on this one is the cell phone coverage. So there are no application rules for the OG Freedom because you can't apply for it, but for the Unlimited and the Freedom Flex, they both have the same rules as most of the Chase cards. You've got the 24 from bonus. If you've received a bonus from this card within the last 24 months, you are not eligible for another bonus. You've got 524, so this is the infamous Chase 524 rule. Your application will be denied if 5 cards are reported on your personal credit report in the last 24 months. The Chase 230, you'll be declined if you apply for a third Chase card of any kind within 30 days. And then you have the Chase 46. Chase will decline your application if you apply for a 5th card, personal or business, in 6 months. All the Chase cards use the Chase Ultimate Rewards for their point system. The estimated value for Ultimate Rewards based on the Points Guy's website is 2.1, rounded up to the nearest tenth. The cash value is 1 cent, so you can just cash out all your points for 1 cent per point. And same with gift cards. You can buy gift cards at 1 cent per point in the portal. The points never expire. You can transfer them to your spouse. It is a little bit of a pain because you have to call the very first time, link your spouse's account to yours, and then once you've done that, you can go into the portal and transfer points at will. Now, why would I want to do that? The reason is because some of the Chase cards, they're travel cards, you can redeem at a higher value for travel. So for the Chase Sapphire Preferred, you can redeem at 1.25 cents per point, or the Chase Reserve is 1.5 cents per point. So it's kind of a 1.25x and a 1.5x modifier on your 1 cent per point in the travel portal. However, the valuation of those points are generally much higher than most other banks, and especially like hotel chains and some airlines. I recently just did a comparison, which I'll probably do a video for shortly, but the same exact hotel room booked on the Chase portal, booked on the Hilton portal, and booked on the Amex portal. And I got a significant value on Chase for the points versus for the exact same amount of money to book the room in cash. For Chase, it was way lower than Hilton points, and it was even a lot lower than the Amex points. So that's why the Chase points are valued so high, I believe, according to the Points Guy. And that's why I mentioned earlier, the 1.5x really isn't that big of a deal that it's not 2x like some of the other cards have. And then on the site here, you can see the other point systems that you can transfer your points out to. So you've got Aeroplan, Avios, Emirates, Skywards, Flying Blue, Flying Club, IHG Rewards, Chris Flyer, Marriott Bonvoy, Rapid Rewards, True Blue, United Mileage Plus, and World of Hyatt. Now, a lot of times they'll give you like a special bonus when transferring. So you might get a 25% bonus or a 20% bonus in points when you transfer to those partners and then book over there. Now, airlines typically can give you a better cent per point value. So if you transfer them over there, then you can get even more points. So you could get up to 3, 5, even 10 sometimes, just depending on the reward flight that you're booking. But that all varies. Here are all the related cards to the Freedom cards that you can transfer your points back and forth or combine points with to then book travel with and so on. All right, you've got the OG Freedom, so the Chase Freedom. You've got the Chase Freedom Flex, the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the Chase Inc. Business Cash, Chase Inc. Business Preferred, and the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited. All these cards, you can pull your points together. However, to use them for travel, then you need at least the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, or the Chase Inc. Business Preferred. All right, so we just covered all the Chase Freedom cards. And honestly, through all the research I've done and my takeaway on this, the Freedom Flex and the Freedom Unlimited cards are just no-brainers. If you can possibly get a second Freedom Flex, either through your Player 2 or by downgrading another card into the OG or another Freedom Flex, then the point spending power on this is huge. I mean, this is where my wife and I accrue most of our points when building up our Chase points, where we're gonna transfer over to her Chase Reserve card to use for our travel. But let me know what you guys think in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and give me a like. I appreciate it.